Good morning, everybody. Morning. Welcome to On the Ball Super Sunday. This is Rick Wee with James and Julian. We are back after a short break last week. Thanks for still watching us despite the break. And today being a Sunday, we were in those who are in Kuala Lumpur. The weather is a good weather to sleep. It's a cool morning weather. It was raining this morning. But so today, on a special Super Sunday, as you know, our show is usually on a Saturday morning. But James and Julian and I decided to do a Super Sunday. So, James, anything to say? Julian, anything to say before we proceed? Hi, James.
Hi, Rick. How you doing? Hey, okay, Julian.
James.
Hang on, huh?
Hang on. Hey, Julian, what shirt are you wearing? Is it an Ireland shirt?
No, it's a New York Cosmos shirt. It's got I can't really see it. It's got Pele on the back. If you can see that.
I saw your shoulder. That's it. But yeah, I'll take your word for it.
All right.
I remember that.
It says I was a big fan of Cosmos when I was a kid. When watching, Pele and who else? The Beckenbauer were playing for him. Chinaglia from Italy. Yeah, what a great team in those days.
Yeah, and James, you are wearing the England's cricket jersey, right?
No, this is actually a England jersey from 2010 World Cup with our sponsor, Cola from Thailand. Basically, we did the deal. But anyway, it's a England 2010 promo shirt.
Okay. I thought it was a cricket shirt. My bad.
One star. For the, what was it, 60, whatever year that they...
66.
1966, yeah.
And I see you're wearing probably the nicest kit we've had for the last few years.
Yep. The
third kit, wasn't it?
Yeah, the third kit. And it's nice.
Was that this year or last year?
The outgoing season, the one we just finished.
Got you. Yeah.
When they say we, just for everyone who's watching, when they say we, they mean Everton. They just so smug that... Yeah. They don't even bother to explain it.
I think anyone that knows either of us know that it's we support Everton. And if they don't, they haven't been paying attention.
Yeah, the only club that matters. Well, today
and for my friends, Everton is a soccer club in the United Kingdom. There we go. Okay, now we can move on.
We had Tim Howard. You don't forget that. Tim Howard.
Joe Max Moore.
Yeah, and Joe Max Moore,
Landon Donovan, and even Brian McBride played for us for a little while.
Wow, okay.
So if you're American and you know a little bit about football, you know some of the names we've been talking about.
There you go.
Yeah. So so there we go. The best jersey for the best club, Everton FC. Yeah. But you know what, Julian? I just got my new shirt. I ordered my new shirts on the way.
Oh wow, cool! The Hummel one, yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to see it. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to discuss about. Of course, we'll start off with our usual weekly news. The three of us will share what we've read about news before. I think a few weeks ago I shared news about sumo wrestling. So today, let's see what James and Julian are going to share with us. After that, we have two topics to discuss today. Number one, sports which we think should be in the Olympics, and since we're on the topic, we'll discuss about what we think sports which should not be in the Olympics. And then the last portion of our talk show today, we will talk about the unluckiest moment in sports, and you should watch. James and Julian prepared some really hilarious and unluckiest moment in sports, especially there's this one dude running and something got entangled. You wait and see the video shortly. So, James, any news of sports today for you to share?
Well, first, thanks, Rick. First of all, I just want to give a shout out to my son Dante's friend Patrick Weah. Patrick Weah, same like George Weah, last name unrelated, was recently put in the top 30 young footballers of the United States nationally. He was Dante's classmate in high school. So shout out to Patrick Weah. He's going to move on and play for Minnesota United next season. So good luck to him.
Good luck, Patrick.
My news item is the NCAA fall season. So fall season is basically canceled. NCAA. So that is mostly football, which football alone is a $7 billion industry, $7 billion a year. So I don't even know what like the European leagues are, but it would be up there as a similar value. And that's just a bunch of kids who aren't even getting paid to play. So I mean that's a huge thing. There's literally thousands of jobs that'll be lost because of that. All those kids who aren't able to play, and it's really the only thing that they look forward to. So it's really a shame that the COVID-19 has you know the American reaction to that. But I think the NCAA is really a good example of creating value based on affinity. You know, because these guys are not the best athletes in the world. They're not the best in America, but it's just because we love our school, and they've created that value based on that. And so I don't know. I think the rest of the world, there's all sorts of opportunities for us to create value based on affinity, and not only based on the best players.
Jim, would you say that college sports is basically the main reason for American colleges? It seems that it's almost like education is like a side hustle, because the amount of money that's made on with the NCAA, mainly the football and basketball programs, there's so much money made in there that that it pretty much pays for the rest of the university almost.
That's why they do it. So it pays for the funding of their science department. It pays for the funding of their other departments, so they can get better professors, better do research around the world. So it certainly helps the universities to grow and to attract more students as well, because students want to go to those schools that have good teams, and so it's definitely hand in hand. It's not it's not the tail wagging the dog though, as you're intimating,
alluding to. It just amazes me. It amazes me that the way university sports generally outside of America, and I think India, they're pretty big on their university sports, but really outside of America, no one gives a monkeys about. Yeah, exactly. American, they have an American system almost, but certainly outside of America, so many countries, they don't give a monkeys about university sport, doesn't
that's
it?
an opportunity. I think that's an opportunity for people.
100% agree. 100% agree. Well, no, it's like when I played any sport at university, and if anyone knows me, that I didn't play that much of sport at university, but like no one cared. 3 men and his dog would come and turn up and watch you.
Well, the good thing about having the best sports being played through schools, I think, is that you don't have to drive somewhere to go to a club. It puts hardship on your studies. So, and also they can link study to sport. So if you're not studying and getting good grades, you can't play on the team. So I think it really drives athletes to study.
I think it's brilliant, by the way. I think it's brilliant. Certainly was never
at the university. A lot of these athletes wouldn't have gotten their university degree if they hopefully Patrick Weah, for instance, who I just mentioned, is going straight into football. Where football definitely doesn't value kids getting a college as a sport globally. It does not value getting a college degree. So, and that's
they want to start playing you part of their youth academy as young as possible.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the benefits of the American system is it shoots you through school all the way up to end of uni. But anyway, enough about that.
Anyway. All right, I've got one thing I just wanted to mention from news this week is what is happening in the Champions League. Holy moly! Like last night, I mean, look, I kind of figured that Bayern was going to beat Barca because I think Bayern are pretty strong this year, and Barcelona have really just they're coming to the end of their useful life, as they say. But
8-2.
8-2. I mean, exactly 8-2. That's crazy. That's nuts. The biggest one though was last night, and I know nothing about it other than the score. But City losing was it 2-1 or 3-1 to Lyon. That's mad. That's mad. A shout out to Bertrand, who I was trash talking about, saying that Lyon were going to get nowhere near the semi-finals, let alone beating Man City. Yeah, fair play to you. That's a shocker. But you know what? I like that. I like it when underdogs. I like it when teams come through that you just don't think are going to come through, because it makes it interesting. Because what annoys me about football, and I'm a football nut. I think anyone knows me would know that, but bugs the hell out of me when the top 3, 4, 5 clubs around the world are winning the same things year in, year out, and it's not interesting. Personally, it's just not interesting. Yeah, people are going to say, "Yo, it's because your club is not doing it." Yeah, totally get that. But when all said and done, there's a lot more supporters of football than just Barcelona, Real Madrid, Man City, Man United, Chelsea, Bayern Munich, all these sort of top 7 or 8, 9 club, 10 clubs, because it's just the same people doing it, and financial fair play means that that's not going to change. Financial fair play is the biggest misnomer, I think, in sports today, because what it does, it stops other clubs. Like, for example, if Newcastle United had got the Saudi transfer, Saudi money from the takeover, they could have competed in numbers in terms of, but they couldn't, because you can't invest in a club and lose money in a club, but still invest in a club as a rich owner, because financial fair play stops you doing that. And it means that no one can break the monopoly, or what they call not duopoly, whatever the opoly is. And it just really annoys me that you see the same people winning, and it's down to cash. Bugs the hell out of me. Anyway, that's me.
How about you, Rick? Any latest news that you found interesting?
Well, the funny thing is connected to the Champions League, but it's not about the Champions League directly. There is news that I am trying to verify, but it's being reported, circulating since yesterday, that if in the situation where the player by the name of Philippe Coutinho, who's now playing for Barcelona, not contracted to Barcelona, but loaned to Bayern, he's loaned to Bayern, that if Bayern Munich win the Champions League, apparently Barcelona has to pay 5 million euro to Liverpool, because when they sold Coutinho to Barcelona, apparently it says that so long as Coutinho wins the Champions League, not Barcelona, so long as
brilliant.
Coutinho wins the Champions League, doesn't matter where he's playing. So apparently Barcelona has to pay 5 million euros to Liverpool.
I'm root for Bayern. Go Bayern. Go Bayern.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. Come on, Bayern.
Yeah, man.
That's a classic. That is a classic.
Free money for Liverpool, if Barcelona,
as much as I don't want Liverpool to make money, I love the thought of that. They must be. They will be so gutted.
Yeah. So this was,
I found that fact, Rick. That's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, of course, I was scrolling through Twitter last night and trying to retweet for my law firm's Twitter account. We run the Twitter account called Sports Law Malaysia. I think I just saw Julian just followed it. So I was going through it last night and I was like, what? So apparently, because of the word in the contract that says that so long as Coutinho wins the Champions League, doesn't matter which club, he wins it, Liverpool gets 5 million euros.
And they already overpaid for him anyway. I mean, the amount of money they paid for was 100 and something odd million for Coutinho, and it's just been the worst bit of value that they could have possibly got. And now to cap you're annoyed you've already paid that much money and he hasn't done the business for you. Yeah. And then you have to pay another 5 million because the team that knocked you out has just won the Champions League. If they did, of course. Brilliant.
I tell you, it's hilarious, man. Yeah. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen, the pitfalls of either brilliantly drafted sports agreements or terribly drafted sports agreement, depending on who you are supporting and where you look from. Yeah. So there you go, news for the week. We've got news from America, Champions League, and you just heard about news on Philippe Coutinho. Now, let's talk about Olympics, guys. So, as you know, Olympics this year was supposed to be held in Tokyo, and now it's going to be held next year at Tokyo too. So the first time in history, I think we will have a 5-year gap between the last Olympics and the next Olympics. But one of the topics which is a unusual topic. Sorry,
is it going to be? Do you think it's going to be held?
I think, James. I think it will go on, but it will be in an empty stadium. I don't think the crowd will be allowed still next year.
How are sports going to run the qualifiers globally when? How is badminton going to do qualifiers when you can't even travel?
Yep. So there will be some sort of
I mean, maybe the optimist in me tells me that we're going to get, before it happens in the middle of the year, you will get the chance to do some qualifiers before then.
I hope so. I hope so too.
I hope so. Yeah, I'm the optimist. So,
well, unless they declare some sort of a travel bubble, So, like for example, Malaysia and Singapore now have declared a certain element of travel bubble. Maybe what they can do is to quarantine all the players 14 days before the tournament, fly to a country and then quarantine again. So then there must be some sort of double safety before they have the
Yeah,
tournament.
maybe that's an idea of Julian for next week. We can maybe have Owen call in or something and have a little segment. How is BWF going to do the qualifying? Because maybe they just have one tournament. Maybe they just have one event to choose all the qualifiers and have everyone bubble in one place. I don't know. But anyway, I hope the Olympics goes on. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you, Rick.
No, I think
bloody
that's
James.
terrible. Yeah. But this is a legitimate question because while I think the tournament will go on next year, and I don't think the crowd will be there, but we are presupposing that the qualifiers will go on. I'm not sure whether we can do it yet, but let's hope things turn around. Now, so for today's topic, we'll start with James. We are going to discuss about sports which in our view should be in the Olympics and shouldn't be. But before we start that, let me share with you the rough criteria in selecting sports to become part of the Olympics. So recently, I think about 5 to 7 years ago, rock climbing was admitted into the Olympics as a sport. But games like squash remain outside Olympics. So that's something for us to discuss. But one of the rules require that the game must be widely practiced by men in 75 countries and over 4 continents, and by women in no fewer than 40 countries. These rules just a loose rules, but it's something for us to consider. So, James, who do you think should be in the Olympics, and who do you think should be out of the Olympics?
Well, I'm just talk about the ins first. And you guys might be surprised by this, but I think cricket should be in the Olympics. Cricket, by every measure that I've seen, is one of the top 10 sports in the world. And I think it's played in at least 75 countries. How well it's played, I don't know. But anyway, I think cricket is definitely one that should be discussed. One that people probably feel, I think I even had this up for debate a couple of weeks ago as to whether or not it was even a sport. But if everyone considers it a sport, motorsports. Oh, sorry, yeah, there's cricket. But I think motorsports is some form of motorsports, because it's so popular. Again, a top 10 sport globally. I don't know what form that would be, how to do it. We talked about like having maybe everyone drive the same car or whatever.
It has to be. It doesn't it? It has to happen. You cannot have it like F1 because then the all sporting side of things goes out the window because it's the guys that have the most money. It's got to be like A1 used to be.
I agree. And if you have equestrian in the Olympics, that means that you don't necessarily have to use your own body, 100%. So why not have motorsports in and
exactly
replace equestrian with motorsports? So the last one I had was just because it's become so popular, and I think the IOC is focusing on what are popular sports globally, especially because they have rock climbing and kind of extreme sports that they, the movement they had maybe 20 years ago to get that in, would be mixed martial arts. They obviously have fight sports like judo, karate, wrestling, boxing, so many fight sports. They could just kind of slim that all down, make room for a few other sports. If they took out judo and karate and put in MMA, maybe have boxing and MMA and wrestling. Maybe that's enough fight sports right there. And then you can make room for different kinds of sports. But MMA is now much more popular than boxing is in terms of viewership globally. And it's also, I think, in my humble opinion, it's more humane. And this picture looks like, what the hell are you talking about?
Humane?
What you talking about, Willis? Like, man,
exactly. What are you talking about, Willis?
But it's really much more of a thinking man sport, because any part of your body can hit any other part of your body. You have to think a lot more. If you interview these guys, they're a lot smarter than boxers are, and there are less injuries than they have in boxing, in fact, statistically. So, and I just think it's more exciting. Yeah, those are the three I would.
Okay, I totally agree with James, and again, this is quite surprising to me. Is I do agree with him on a number of things, like particularly cricket. I actually even agree with him on MMA because I think cricket. Look, it's hard not to argue that cricket, one of the biggest sports in the world, as James said, and rugby can get in, but cricket isn't. So, you could say they're played in a similar sort of number of countries, the old Commonwealth countries, so to speak. But obviously, it's expanded a little bit to that. You can get China playing cricket. Anyway, that I don't think anyone's going to argue with that, really, to be honest, unless you're, obtuse. I think is probably the best way to describe it.
Or unless you work for the judo federation.
Certainly, I would also agree with MMA. I personally, I'm a big fight fan. I love boxing. Do not like MMA, but I think it should be in there. There's a big enough fan base. There's a big enough. It's played. It's practiced all around the world. And if you've got judo, karate, all these other things in there, why on earth do you not have MMA? Because you got to look at the sports in the Olympics, and the sports in the Olympics are historical. And when we get to the things that shouldn't be in the Olympics, we'll go in. I'll go into that in a little bit. But they're historical, and something that's relevant 100 years ago is not relevant today. So today, relevancy is MMA, and the other one that I think is also esports that we should add into that mix. Now, I've talked about esports at length on this podcast, and the reason I've been a gamer for 45 years probably in my life, and I think esports should absolutely be there because of it's a hand-eye coordination thing. The way that archery and shooting and other type of skill of hand-eye coordination are in there. I certainly don't think you should take out shooting or archery out of the Olympics. Therefore, but archery was in the Olympics because archery was probably quite useful. It actually wasn't even useful 100 years ago, if I'm honest. But but you know what I mean. It was a historical thing. But esports is the archery of the 21st century almost, because a lot more people play it. It's all about hand-eye coordination. I think there's no reason it shouldn't be on there. And more than anything else, the Olympics has been losing viewers over the years because the fans of the Olympics are getting older and older and older. And the reason you saw esports in the Asian Games and the Sea Games was because they need to attract a younger audience. And the Olympics are a little bit more traditional, should we say, than those two games. And they're resisting bringing in esports. But if they're going to talk to the youth of today and the youth of tomorrow, they have to have it in there. Have to. To me, there's no argument. And whether you agree or it's not a sport or it is a sport, it does not matter. You could talk about, there's about 10, 15 sports in the Olympics. You can discuss whether there is or isn't a sport. So forget that argument. The argument is if you want to speak to the youth of today, you have to have esports in there. That's my rant for the day.
I totally agree with that. But I also think that if you want something in, you can't say, well, let's leave these other ones in too, and let's just make 50 sports. I think if you say I argue for one to go in, you gotta put your hand up and say, and this one should definitely go out.
Yeah, look, not going to disagree with that, buddy. Not going to do because there's a few that
sports is huge and should be in the Olympics.
Yeah. What about you, Rick? What would you add in there?
Well, for me, it's just squash. I've been following squash for quite some time on this. I'm for the record, I'm not a squash player, but it's just that my ex-colleague, I think you remember her, Leslie Lim. Mm-hmm. She was part of the group who was campaigning on squash to be entered into.
Right. So was I. I was part of that bid to get squash back into the Olympics. Yeah.
So I saw her working hard on it, and I read up about it. That was many years ago in my former law firm at Richard V. and Yip. So and since then, even though I'm not a squash player, I actually believe in that project.
I 100% agree, mate.
Yeah. So I thought,
what was it? Why did that fail? What was the reason why it didn't? You think did they get an answer?
I think you know why it didn't fail. Why it failed? Sorry. Once again, because what got in was golf and rugby sevens, and those are money generating sports. Unfortunately, squash isn't a money generating sport. It's not played. It's played in a lot of countries, and it's popular, and it was very popular during the 70s. Certainly in the UK, I remember it being there was a big wave of squash clubs all around the place. But you know, you look at here in Malaysia, and when you had Trisha Chua and Nicole David and a few other sort of squash players that were big in Malaysia.
Ong Beng Hee,
exactly.
Anwar Iskandar, you know,
That's right. That's right. And so you had that, and there was a big surge of interest in squash, of course. Then, of course, they've now retired, and less so. So,
do you remember which sports were kicked out? Because usually when a new sport comes in, they also expel.
Good question. I don't.
I think actually baseball and softball were expelled at that point, but they've gotten back in. Yeah, they came back. Yeah. But I mean, if rugby replaces baseball, you know, I think baseball is actually a bigger money earner than rugby, for instance.
It is. So it is. I mean, you look.
Money. Yeah, I see.
Yeah, no, it's not always about money, of course, because there's sports in there that, you know, nobody watches. Zero people watch. I mean, okay, as much as it's interesting, who watches pentathlon? Is pentathlon something that everyone watches? 5 interesting little sports that you have, but
that's part of track and field. So you're not going to get rid of track and field. So I think if you like the whole thing.
Pentathlon has horses, mate. It has horses.
Oh, pentathlon. Oh, I'm not sure which pentathlon you're talking about here.
You're thinking of heptathlon.
Oh, got you. Okay.
Which is the female version of the decathlon.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
Pentathlon is shooting, running, swimming, horse riding, and running. I think actually.
So running.
I think I'm right.
The 2 running.
Did I? Okay, maybe they run twice. Who knows? But
they're running against
something else anyway. Horses, swimming, running, shooting.
Oh, I didn't even know about this. I'm going to look into this. I didn't know that this was a thing.
Well, to be honest, you know, James, tongue-tied, but it's one of those sports that I'm actually mildly interested in it because Britain generally does okay in it. But I don't know. It's just, have you ever seen it on television outside of that? Have you ever seen it reported upon? You know, and generally, if you're doing those 4-5 disciplines, they're expensive. Shooting is not a cheap discipline. Horse riding is definitely not a cheap discipline. Obviously, swimming, running, and what have you are. But it comes from the old days, and pentathletes were generally, you know, army people, because you do all these things in the army.
Is this modern pentathlon? Modern pentathlon.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, you just Googled that, haven't you?
No, I didn't, but I was like, I didn't realize what the modern pentathlon was, though, even. So interesting.
Fair enough.
That kind of brings us to like what we want out of the Olympics, you know, and from my perspective, I mean, I definitely think, you know, watching people do this, and then I don't know, archery to me is something that is it even a sport, or is it a hobby? I don't know. I think it should be out, and I would gladly, for instance, throw it out to make room for something like cricket or MMA or esports. Also, canoeing. What do you guys think about canoeing? Is that something you think?
I've got no problem with it. I mean, if you look at it, right, you have an implement to get from A to B, but the only reason you don't need the best canoe in the world, you need biggest arms, best tactics, whatever. You know, but it's a human endeavor.
If you have to pick between canoeing and, let's say, cricket, you know what I mean? I think there's no choice there. It's always going to be cricket, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have to kick something out to get something in, I would gladly sacrifice handball, for instance. Handball, archery, canoeing, they can go back home. You can do those things. You can do those things in your own time. I'd rather have motorsports, MMA, and cricket in any day of the week.
Okay, well, look, I could argue with you, you know, possibly will argue with you, but you said you think handball should be in? Did you say?
I think it should be out. I would sacrifice it for motorsports.
Why? Look, I've never played handball in my life. Never even probably watched a game of handball in my life. But in many countries, it's a huge game, and it's also why should football be in it over handball?
Because football is the biggest sport in the world.
Yeah, no, but okay. So why is pentathlon in it? It's not the biggest sport in the world. You don't put it in just because it's the biggest sport in the world.
Pentathlon out. I agree. Also, get it out. I didn't even know about it. Otherwise, it'd be on my damn list.
Oh my god! Go on.
I should agree
Go on.
with James. I think handball is not an Olympic level.
It's a
Why?
European sport. It's a European
but-
sport. The rest of the world doesn't
Because
really play it.
baseball's a world sport, isn't it, Jim?
It
Yeah,
is,
but you see,
absolutely.
baseball is played widely in Taiwan and in Japan.
Yeah. But handball's played all around the world. You just don't know about it.
No,
No,
I'm
but
not.
for example,
I'm not saying that handball is not a great sport. I'm just saying, is handball as great as cricket, for instance? And if I had to make a choice, I would probably choose cricket over handball. That's all I'm
So would
saying.
I. But yeah, no, look, I don't disagree with that argument. But you've also got the thing of handball is just as relevant as many of the other sports in there, and there's other sports that are not very relevant. Fencing. How about fencing?
Yeah.
Why is fencing in there? That's something that was done in the 1800s. And if you've ever watched fencing, and trust me, I once tried to represent the Fencing Federation to do their to media sales and distribute their media around the world. And I spoke to a lot of broadcasters. Not one of them wanted it. And I'm talking not just Asian broadcasters. I was talking to broadcasters around. And actually, gentlemen, shout out to a guy called Stefan Motaz, who I was working with at the time, who was at the FIH. I think he's moved on since then. But honestly, it's one of those things that, have you ever watched it on television and you think, oh, I bet it's cool, because you watch all those old fights on, in the old movies, pirate movies, and gladiator movies and what have you. But actually, Olympic fencing is.
Maybe they should wear the gladiator and like pirate outfits.
It might be, it might be. But if you ever watch it, it's like, what happened there? It's like, and it's just these little sort of where they have their little parry and
green light, red light, whatever on your head. Yeah,
it's so difficult to follow, and they've done all sorts of sort of technological advancements to make it more enjoyable and what have you. But man, it's so hard to enjoy. And I always thought fencing would be cool to watch, but it actually isn't at all. So I would chuck fencing out the window. And the other one,
I'll speak for fencing actually.
Go on. I'll hear you out.
Yeah, because well, I'm going to disclose something here that my daughter fence.
Okay.
But she's a casual fencing player. And my niece, she's representing Selangor for fencing, and we have a potential to represent Malaysia. But
awesome.
But you're right in terms of popularity. No disrespect to my daughter and my niece. Fencing is not something. I'm not going to watch them. But
I think if it was a little bit more spectator friendly, I would have a different opinion. It's not. It's hard to watch.
I went to the Asian Games fencing 2018, or was it 19 actually? 2019, and it was really first time I ever saw it live, and again it would be the last time I would go. But all due respect to fencers everywhere, including in your family.
Oh yeah, huge amount of skill needed and fitness.
Along the Olympics,
but it's not a spectator sports, So no. I totally agree with that. And if my daughter and my niece were not doing fencing, I will not watch fencing,
Yeah.
But it's just two persons trying to jab each other, Yeah. And then most of the time the duel finish in like 6 seconds, and you don't even know what happened.
That's what happens.
Yeah. A lot of times when I watch, I'll turn and be saying, "Who won? Who what happened?"
You think it'd be kind of cool, but in reality, it's not so much. The only other one that I would I'm sort of torn a little bit about this one is the equestrian dressage, because the equestrian jumping over the obstacles and stuff, I kind of like that. I think we'll leave that in. The dressage part of it, which is where they sort of prance around and look really nice. Look, don't doubt the skill.
It's like a dog show, right? It's like a dog.
Exactly. It's like, I don't doubt the skill. I don't doubt that they work really hard, just as hard as any other athlete. That's not my point. My point is, it's not sport, per se. It's not sport per se. The jumping over the obstacles and all that sort of business, the show jumping, absolutely sport. But looking nice and being controlled, and there's too much down to a judge's interpretation. Now, you could say the same thing for ice dancing, for gymnastics, and other judging sport, diving, judging sports, which I always have a little bit of a problem with because it's down to it's open to cheating, as we saw in many boxing matches over the years. But the dressage, I just think that it's a little bit too much for me.
So my opinion about this whole discussion is that tradition, as you said earlier, Julian, Olympics is about tradition. And tradition is a great thing, but you don't necessarily have to reflect tradition in the sports that you include in the Olympics. You can have traditions about walking into the stadium, what the medals look like, the awards ceremonies. These things can all be traditional, and there can be many things around the Olympics that can retain tradition. But the sports that you include, you shouldn't have some of these sports that are basically 18th century, 19th century sports that are legacy sports in there, and it needs to reflect what people are interested in these days.
Correct. Yeah, 100%. But for me, guys, there's one sport I think I'm going to say something not popular in Malaysia, but there's one sport which I have to be very careful because it may lose the Olympic. It's actually badminton. You see very carefully, badminton is only popular in 3 countries: Malaysia, Indonesia, and China, and in Europe to some extent Denmark. Other than that, the badminton is not popular. It's just a casual sport. I mean,
you can add Thailand and India in there because of the success of recent players. But mate, I know the success of badminton or the how popular it is. I used to sell badminton, the TV rights of it, and it's 99% of all sales are in Asia.
Yeah, so I love badminton. I play badminton.
As do I.
You know what? The three of us should play badminton one day.
I used to be the head of badminton for IMG. So
exactly.
I've organized probably over 30, 40 events in badminton. But having said that, most of the money I made came out of Indonesia back in the day. And Asia definitely. So I agree with you there, but and they're constantly like table tennis. Also another one that you could argue is very Asia based, and maybe even more China based or one country based than even badminton is. But they're always trying to struggle to move out into Europe and other parts of the world, and that's something that Julian and I both tried to help both of them sports do. But it's hard to just force your sport into a market that doesn't always necessarily.
But you also got to remember it's generational. Now in the 50s, 60s, 70s, Europe was the powerhouse in table tennis.
Then,
of course, China came up and it became a much more Asian-centric sport. So you can't diss a sport and say take that sport out of there just because one particular region is dominating it.
Yeah.
Badminton was huge in Europe in the 60s and 50s.
I totally agree with you, Julian, on that. And of course, I subscribe to them. One of my concerns is that, the Olympics, they have their own politics with no disrespect to them.
That's the problem. Too much politics.
Their own politics there. So one of the arguments I see against badminton is that Africa and South America have not really seriously taken up the game yet. And of course, North America, there have been some prominent players, even though they were either imported from Asia to America or Canada. But the point is, the game is growing. It's growing there. But let's hope so. I mean, I love badminton. I play badminton on a casual basis, and I hope the 3 of us will maybe have on the ball at the court one day. Yeah.
We're not filming it. We are definitely not filming it.
So
there you go, ladies and gentlemen. It's 11:40.
Right. One last thought. I just wanted to throw this in there. 3 sports that I'm glad are in the Olympics that weren't always in the Olympics are tennis, golf, and football. I'm just glad that they're in the Olympics now because they're such big global sports. And when you have the Olympic Games and it doesn't really include, those 3 sports, to me, it's like, wait a minute. Even if like in football, you kind of have to change the rules a little bit to protect your biggest asset, which is the World Cup. But at least they have a good competition there. And I just think that, it really makes the Olympics much more credible having those 3 sports involved.
Don't disagree.
I mean, look at the last Olympics in Rio when Brazil won the gold medal for football. I remember Neymar, he broke down and cried for half an hour.
Yeah.
It's so special for them.
Is that the same guy as Neymar?
Yeah. Neymar, Noma. And don't get the Chinaman to pronounce it because it becomes Nyama.
The king of pronunciations, Jim.
Yeah. So that guy, it's so important. So football is big. Yeah, I'm glad he's in.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
All right,
should have a bit of fun now.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there we go. A mini debate going on, sports in and out. I personally threw in I know it's a controversial view that maybe badminton is in danger if they're. I want it to be in the Olympics, but they have to be careful. Never know. And then there's some strange sports. Julian just mentioned. I didn't even realize it's in the Olympics. That game which I can't pronounce.
Pentathlon.
Tenta, whatever, 10. Yeah, so.
Pentathlon.
Chinaman. I am a Chinaman. I can't pronounce. Yeah, like Nima, Nama. So most of my Chinaman friends call him Niyama. So you all know what Niyama means. Yeah. So now, okay. The next part of our show before we call it a day for today, our special Super Sunday, is the hilarious or in a way funny moments or even sad moments, the unluckiest moment in sports. So we why don't James you bring us along? What do you think is the unluckiest moment? Then maybe we can show something on the screen.
Sure. Well, I got three examples. More from the U.S. side of sports, but I guess the first one I'll talk about is a very recent game last year in the NBA when the Philadelphia 76ers were on the verge of the NBA Finals. They're playing in the Eastern Conference Finals against Toronto Raptors. And it was game seven. They've gone back and forth. Game 7, the game is tied at 90. With 4 seconds left, and that's basically to decide who goes into the NBA Finals. And top defensive team in the league, 76ers, they haven't been to the Finals in 18 years at this point. So everybody is really on their toes thinking this is going to be the year. And then Kawhi Leonard steps up and check out what happens. Roll it. Inbounds, 4 seconds. Kawhi gets the ball over to the corner, takes the shot. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 times the ball hits the rim. The whole stadium is like, how many times is this dang ball? And then you'll see the replay here. The ball hits the rim 4 times before it goes in.
Oh my God! I didn't see this part.
Oh yeah, wait till you see the replay. This ball, and I mean, it could have any one of the 4. But let's see it here.
There you go. There you go.
Here, gets it off before the clock goes down to 1,
2, 3,
4.
Oh my God!
That is, I think if I was a Philadelphia 76ers fan, I would have been, any one of those bounces could have gone a different way, and we would have made it into the finals. But yeah, that's one that I think was very, very unlucky for the Toronto for the 76ers. Anyway.
76ers, yeah. Well, I didn't know that part. I didn't see that part.
4 bounces. It's not just that they made the shot; it was how the shot went in that was so unlucky for the 76ers. Another one actually has its own name. It's called the River City Relay. This is, if you guys like rugby, then you'll like this one because American football turns into rugby in this one, in this New Orleans Saints game against the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2003. This is an NFL game. The New Orleans Saints need a win. They were 7-7. They needed to win this game to make it into the playoffs that year. So it was hugely important. They're playing away in Jacksonville. Jacksonville team is really kind of crap, but they're beating New Orleans. So New Orleans has basically 7 seconds left on the clock. And so they have one play. They have to go 75 yards. It's a very, very long way to go.
Wow.
And so, one play, 75 yards. It's even too far for that Hail Mary play that you see those Hail Marys, but a quarterback can't throw the ball 75 yards. So they have to come up with some other kind of method and basically, take a look at what they do. They basically resort to a rugby kind of strategy, which is really pretty cool. But then there's even the fact that they resort to this rugby strategy, and this is the Jaguars guys like, oh, we're going to win this game. So here's the rugby play.
Just play.
So they basically throw it half, quarter of the way. The guy runs. He's not going to make it. So what does he do? He throws it. He laterals it to his buddy. His buddy's not going to make it. Laterals it again. This guy's not going to make it. He actually laterals it again. And all of a sudden, this guy's like, hey, I'm in the clear. Look at that. I scored. So
What's the unlucky bit? What's the unlucky bit, Jim?
The unlucky bit is they were 1 point down, and all they had to do was kick the try here, and the guy misses the try. So they did that unbelievable play.
Oh, you're kidding.
All they have to do is the kicker needs to kick the shortest thing, and the game is tied, and whoop, he missed it.
Holy crap.
Oh my God. After all that.
That whole amazing play just was thrown away because the guy missed the short kick.
Oh my God.
Last one I'll talk to you about is American baseball fans will know this one very well. From when I was a kid, 1986, the Boston Red Sox hadn't won a World Series since 1918, so it was like 68 years. They were the unluckiest team in baseball. Of course, since then they have won, but at this time, in 1986,
they're always known as unlucky, weren't they?
They thought they were cursed. That's how unlucky they thought they were. They struggled their way into the World Series. They were in last place at one point during that season, came all the way back from last place, made the playoffs, made the World Series. This is again game. Basically, if they win this game, they have a very good chance of winning the World Series. And they're playing up against the New York Mets, who were a very cocky team that year. They had awesome players, and they even from the second game of the season, they said they were going to win the World Series. So the Red Sox were actually leading this game in the 10th inning. So they're going to extra innings, and they have 2 outs. So if they can just get this batter out, then they will go back home to Boston to play the final game where they have a much better chance of winning, and they can win the World Series. So all they have to do is get this guy out. And the guy who's playing first base is one of the best players on the team. All he has to do is pick up that easy ball. God. It was a simple ball, a play he made 1,000,000 times in his career, and it goes between his legs. A play that he's literally made. He's made that play 10 million times in his life, and it's an easy play.
Is that unlucky or just a bad play?
Well, it's a bad play, but it's kind of unlucky because that player in particular at first base, he's 36 years old. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He made that play 1,000,000 times, and it just kind of adds to the curse. The fact that Boston was cursed, that he would make an error at that time is almost like an unlucky error, and then the Mets go on and win the World Series and push the Red Sox back into oblivion from where they came. So, and again, look, it's a simple ball. Yeah, you can say it's a bad play. It's called an error, but I just think it was unlucky that he had that play right at that particular time. So.
Okay, well, I've actually got some actual unlucky things in my bit.
You have to say that, Julian.
Of course I did. It's James. James and I will always fight over something or other.
Yeah.
So, do you want to exactly? I keep doing the wrong way. Rick, do you want to bring up the video? And the only reason I know about this is because I did a bit of Googling and found it on YouTube, and it just made me laugh so much, and I felt sorry for the poor dude. But the race one, Rick,
hang on,
pull this one up. I know absolutely zero when it comes to the background to this, other than anyone that watches this you will all say this is actually unlucky. There was no skill involved or lack of or mistakes made.
I actually know a little bit about the background here. This is like Ireland National Championships, and it's like a preliminary race. So top 3 guys get through to the finals to be the Irish champion. So then this happens.
If Rick can find it.
Yeah, I'm looking for it. It's just that it got covered by advertisements. I'm trying to get rid of the advertisements.
I see.
Yeah, okay, here we go. We are going to share this screen now, and this is the running woman. Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Are you there? Yep.
Actually,
so this guy's running, right?
Yeah. So the guy, look at the guy in front. Basically, the guy was running. It's winning. Then the pole vaulter. Watch the pole vaulter on the right. Gets caught in his legs.
It's like Spider-Man.
Yeah. It's a Spider-Man sort of slowed him down. That is purely unlucky. That's very, very unlucky. I mean, you just feel for the guy. You're winning. I think he got into the next round. Hopefully, I think. But how unlucky?
But
how unlucky would that be?
Strategically, he should have been in second or third place right there, Julian. I mean, that's not luck. You always come from second or third and go pat. No, I'm just kidding. That was dang unlucky. Dang unlucky.
Second one I had was our friend Thierry Henry, one of the greatest strikers in my lifetime. Watching, probably one of my favorite players to watch. Because when he was in his pomp, he was just an amazing player. So graceful, so fast, but also so skillful. And some of the goals he scored were just super splendid. Anyway, near the end of his career, what you're seeing here is Ireland versus France. Now, if you just stop it, Rick, stop it there.
Yep.
Stop it there if you don't mind. Let me give you a quick background. It's the playoff to get into the World Cup. Okay, so the 2010 World Cup, it's the playoff, Ireland versus France. Now, Ireland, I don't know whether they're ahead or basically, if this doesn't happen, Ireland are going through because I think on aggregate, they're ahead on aggregate. Then there's three things that happen that make as we were talking earlier on, the luck of the Irish comes in. Because if you look at that shot there, you will see there are two players, France players in blue, are offside. Yeah. The goal, whatever happened after this, should have been disallowed because of the offside. Do you want to press play again, Rick?
Yep.
Okay, the ball comes in. It comes to that player there where it's just stopped is Thierry Henry. Yep. And he then handles the ball. For William Gallas. Now, you can't see it. There. Thierry Henry, one of the greatest players of all time, or at least in my lifetime, handles the ball. It goes to Gallas, and he scores.
There you go. Handle the ball. Clear handball.
That's purely, of course, ref doesn't see it. Goal.
So how did the guy score? Like the guy also scored kind of off his shoulder. Oh, it's his header.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But it shouldn't be 2 calls, 3 calls should have happened by then.
Oh, totally. I mean, look, as you can see, that they highlight the
linesman.
The linesman should have been able to see that. You can see it. There you go. It hits his hand. I mean, you could use a similar sort of analogy to the Diego Maradona hand of God, but the luck of the Irish. It's like they were so close. They were so close to getting into the World Cup again, and the French. And Thierry Henry took it away from them through pure unluckiness. There you go. Unfortunately, it sort of staggers a little bit.
It's even more obvious here. Yeah, there you go. There.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
The final one, I was going to also mention the Frank Lampard no goal in Germany, but I think Rick had discussed that in the last episode, one of the last episodes we had. That was purely unlucky. What brought in VAR in football. But the last one I wanted to show is the original Ronaldo. Now, this guy was World Footballer of the Year. He won World Cups. He won the UEFA Cup in Italy. He won the Spanish National League and what have you. But this guy, one of the greatest players on time. However, he would have been without doubt, greatest. Here, that he stretches his leg there, his leg goes there, and that meant he had an injury. Sorry, a career full of injuries from that point. And if you ever watch any highlights of Ronaldo as a player before his injuries, he was absolutely untouchable. People talk about Cristiano Ronaldo, and they talk about Messi, and they talk about Pele, and they talk about Puskás and Di Stefano. I think Ronaldo would have been the greatest player of all time without any doubt if he had not had the injuries that this guy had. His injury list was amazing. Now, he was still in the top 5 of great players of all time. Still, an amazing player, still achieved so much in his career. But I believe that he would have achieved 400-500 times more without the injuries that he had. I mean, there's a goal he scored for Barcelona against someone like Alaves or someone like that, where he took it from one end of the pitch to the other, just foxing.
I remember that goal. I remember that
just the most beautiful piece of dribbling you've ever seen. But this guy had it all. He had the skills to dribble, the power in the shot, the accuracy in the shot. He's a great header of the ball. He just had everything. And I think his true potential was never met, despite him winning World Cups and winning World Player of the Year and winning all these type of things. Just injury. And it makes me sad that, maybe not sad, but it's a shame that we never really saw the real Ronaldo throughout a whole career.
I guess, I mean, I totally agree with you that he was one of the best players, and he could have been even better if he wasn't injured. But we can say that about so many players who get injured.
Very true. Very true.
Injury part of the game, or I don't know, but I think it's just part. Is it unlucky, or is it? Maybe he didn't stretch properly. Maybe it's his own fault. But I think he was one of the best players in the game, bar none, for sure. Totally agree with that.
What about you?
No, I actually think that so far what we have shown so far, what Julian showed, the guy who was running around track and got entangled, that has to be the unluckiest moment. How unlucky can you be? You're just minding your own business. You're running, and then you're about 50 meters away from finishing, and then bang, something came over your head, and you got tied around your leg. Oh my God!
Exactly. There's also one other thing, and I don't know whether I sent you the video, Rick, about the cricket. Did I send you that one?
Cricket.
If you've not seen the cricket, I probably didn't send it to you. But in the World Cup final, the other was it 2019, England against New Zealand. No need to show it if I didn't send it. But it was England needed something like. So off 4 balls, they needed 15 runs or something, and it hit his basically. I'm not explaining it. I've just realised that I'm not going to be able to explain this very well. I'm going to quit while I'm behind and leave you to Rick. Sorry.
Thank you for wasting a minute of all of our lives collectively.
I apologise to everyone. I apologise to everyone. Guilty as charged. For
me, the unluckiest.
Yeah. I think you got a really good one too, actually, to show.
One of the most unluckiest one was the Steven Gerrard sleeping. When he fell down at the game against Chelsea. So that was, well, I know it was really, really unlucky for him. But and to be fair to Liverpool that year, they had a phenomenal team with the man-eating Suarez who bites everybody, and they had. Also, Daniel Sturridge, good team that year. Could have gone on to win, but unfortunately, Gerrard slipped when they played against Chelsea. And I think you can see this infamous photograph. I think it's this one. No, not this one. This is the other one. This is the other unlucky one.
Oh, yeah. This one. So how does Gerrard slipping? I mean, what happened? I don't really understand the context. Or he slipped doing what?
Well, what happened was at the time when they were playing Chelsea, Liverpool was at the top of the table. And when Steven Gerrard slipped,
what was he doing?
He was defending the ball. He slipped, and then the Chelsea striker got the ball, scored the goal, and Chelsea defeated Liverpool at Anfield. And that was the catalyst of the change. A few games after that, Manchester City won the Premier League ahead of Liverpool. So for many times that season, I think that was about 6 seasons ago in 2014. Very unfortunate for Gerrard that he had to sleep at the wrong moment. And
Rick, I've just sent you it so we don't have to listen to you. We actually see the clip. I've just sent you the clip.
Okay, hang on. I'm trying to find a clip.
It's in.
So basically, Liverpool would have won the league. without doubt, Liverpool would have won the league if Gerrard had not slipped. There are other factors, of course, but Gerrard slips. It means they lost against Chelsea to Chelsea when they should have won.
That's huge.
And it just, for every Evertonian and non-Liverpool fan, it's one of the greatest moments in Premier League history.
So
and
Gerrard,
you could say it's
Gerrard, you sent my email?
No, the private chat here.
Oh, okay. Just sorry. Cheers, mate. Sorry.
So Gerrard had two of the unluckiest moments. Wasn't he also the one for England that with the ball on the line? Or was that Lampard?
No, that was Lampard. Right. But it was unlucky because he was playing, I think. He was playing that day.
Yeah, true.
But,
so I'm going to show the video now.
Poor old Stevie G.
We're going to show a video now. Hang on.
Yeah.
There you go. Let's start again.
Yeah.
So there, it was a game between, there. He slipped there.
Oh.
And
They basically lost Liverpool the title. The one player who got Liverpool to being near the title throughout a whole history. In fact, he didn't win the title during his whole 10, 15 years or how long he played for Liverpool. But I mean, it was kind of sad if you were looking at it from a neutral perspective. It was unlucky. The one player you really didn't want to go through that. But for everyone that is evil and mean like myself, that was hilarious.
Well, of course, if for the Liverpool fans, they have the last laugh now because they finally won the league. But that year, there was a really unlucky moment for them. And I mean, football aside, you wouldn't want it to happen to our club. But there you go. Really unlucky moment.
That's true.
It is.
Yeah. So with that, just like that, it's 12 o'clock. It's already 1 hour. Time flies when you're having fun.
That's true.
It does indeed.
Yep.
It does indeed.
So, any summary, Julian, James? Maybe James would have a summary of what we discussed today.
Sure. I guess we saw some ideas of what we felt is Olympic in the new millennium, and also how luck plays a big part in sport. And one of the phrases I've always lived by in my life is the harder you work, the luckier you get. So, but luck is a big part.
Gary Player.
And exactly, and as we watch sports, there's going to be luck always in the game, whether we like it or not. So skill is big, but luck is also a part. And when it doesn't go your way, we'll always be crying in our beer.
Julian?
Nothing in particular that I'd like to point out other than I've got nothing to say. Yeah.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll be back next week for episode 9. We expect to have 10 episodes for the first season, and so we've got 2 more episodes to go for the first season. So the so-called first season, and I think we'll be back on Saturday for next week. We'll be back on Saturday unless we announce otherwise. Yeah. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. Moments in sports which are unlucky and games which should not be in Olympics or should be in Olympics. If you are interested, continue watching the video. It'll be replayed all the time on our Facebook page. Anyway, thank you.
We'll be promoting the hell out of it, and you'll be annoyed. Oh, Jesus Christ, Julian, James, and Rick are talking about that stupid podcast again.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.